It only operates in summer. In winter there is no tourists, so we don't need to use the ferry either. But here we can see just now, it's a little bit difficult to see, but if you look carefully as we come closer, you will see there's a giant steel cable going across the river. From that cable there is a little pulley wheel going with the cable down to the ferry, and that makes sure that of course the ferry doesn't go back with the current. Right? It's attached to a cable, and by putting the bow of the ship into the current, you go.
The white tower behind.
Also interesting to see, if you look at the church, you actually see there's a defensive work around the church. Do you see the church and then the defensive works around it, and to the left hand side the white tower? Well, in the olden days, churches were not only for praying, but also for defense. So, especially here, in the 16th century, the 17th century, the Turks used to come a lot. Turks, Hungarians, they all wanted to sort of take over or invade.
There's probably a little bit better view of the white tower of the original church. And then over here is a ferry, and he said that even as small as this ferry is, it can hold up to 6 cars. And it's used mostly just for the tourists. There's a little bit better shot of the ferry, and there's no engine. They just use the current to go back and forth, and then there's a cable that's going over our heads to guide it so it doesn't just get washed down.
Very high wall, that's absolutely correct. It's a very sophisticated and very expensive system. They had 2 options to do. You can either say, okay, I'm going to build myself a 10 feet wall, concrete wall here, but then of course our visitors come and they can't see the river. And they look then at a 10 feet high concrete wall, which is not very nice to see. So they have decided for the more expensive option, but also the nicer option. They build a wall which is about 5 feet high, so when you sit there in your bed and breakfast, or you drive along, or you walk there, you can still look over the wall and the river. Now when the high water comes, on top of the concrete there is bolts put in every 3-4 feet. On those bolts we put steel pillars, and then in between the pillars we put steel shutters. And then we can raise the wall by another 6 or 7 feet. So only in case of the high water coming, they put up the walls. Now what you sometimes see, they took it away last week, otherwise you could have seen it also this morning, that when there is a threat of high water, they already put up the pillars, 2 or 3 boards, and then they wait.
This church is St. Michael's. It's a Romanesque church, and it was used mostly for defense, and not during times when the robbers and things like that would come into this area. As you can see also, it's built on a very strategically a very good point. And you can see the rocks are almost coming into the river. So it's, from a defensive point of view, it's very easy to defend it, because there's hardly anywhere the enemy can come from. They can hardly run down the hill because it's way too steep. And then on both sides it becomes very narrow. So we see the church, we see the round defensive tower, and do you see the little building in between the church and the tower? You know what is that? It's a charnel house. Have you ever heard of a charnel house? Is it a yes or a no? No? Oh, that's good. Let me explain to you what is a charnel house. Charnel houses were built in the 12th, 13th century. What happened is, you see this giant church. Now in front of the church, in the churchyard, is a cemetery. But you can see how small that part is. So it's only a tiny little cemetery. So after a couple of 100 years of burying monks and local people in there, sort of the graveyard fills up. Now you can of course not take the bones and throw them into the river, that is simply impossible, so you build a charnel house. And now you can see the side of the charnel house is right next to the tower on the left hand side. And the charnel house is a religious building where you take the bones and the skulls from the graves and you sort of put them together within the charnel house. So if you would look through the door of the charnel house, you see walls completely stacked from top to bottom with bones. This is one of the few areas that we've seen houses on this left-hand side of the river because of the rocks and everything that are. But this would have been the Roman side, where the Romans were held back
and also
by the river.
Town here, they also have the. You can name them from Persie, there's hundreds of them, but believe me, I have not a single clue of any Austrian soccer player. But nevertheless, they like it a lot here. This is the local swimming pool. The town of Spitz
This is the town of Spitz, he said.
We also have a nice church up there again. And here you can see sort of the hills coming down, and then just now on the left hand side where you can see the castle, the hill goes right up all the way, the valley goes right up to the Czech little streams.
This is an area where it's very close to the Czech Republic, and there would be a lot of traffic going from this area into actually what have been Moravia and Bohemia. And so there's a lot of castles in through here for protection from the...
by 8 inches wide, changed into a river about meters, so 15 feet high by about 20 feet wide. So you can imagine the damage this village,
Okay, this is another one of the ferries with no end, that they just use the current of the river and a cable going across to power the boats across. And then we're getting closer to the castle up there.
And here, right now on the right hand side,
the fortifications and everything are still very much intact. It's just the inside that has been completely stripped of everything. All the fortifications and everything are there, and it's quite amazing to go through. It'd be nice to be able to go up, but...
Now I would like you to look into the right hand side. You can see a little bridge. Can you see the little bridge that flooded this area? The bridge was sort of almost wiped out. The water was coming over the bridge and back up the whole valley, and all the villages, houses, roads, 30, 40 feet length of road, completely tarmac roads, everything was completely wiped out. Houses were flooded. This tiny little stream really destroyed quite a few houses and bridges.
Our guide talked about the UNESCO heritage thing, and he said this whole area of the river was considered a UNESCO's heritage, and things can't be changed. Seems strange, but that's the way it is.